Good evening, everybody. Wonderful people out there. Welcome to Where Are They Now on Discover TV. We're thrilled to be back with our second season and hoping you always to bring you interesting interviews with our legendary artists and the fascinating people, local and international, who have been part of our music business since time began. Yes. They share their journeys, they share their amazing stories, their amazing experiences, and we are totally honored to be here and hear them. Especially where they are now. We want to hear where they've been and what they've been doing. Tonight's guest is a man I met in 1973, believe it or not. And even back then, he was larger than life. He's an incredibly laid-back gentleman with an incredible gift for writing great songs, choosing and nurturing the right artists, giving people places to live out their dreams in the clubs and restaurants that made our youth very proud. Tonight, I'm most humbled to welcome industry royalty, Patric van Blerk. Hello,
Wow.
Patric. It's
Cindy.
true. It's all true, honey. I
Thank
never
you.
lie.
That was very beautiful, particularly from my Piscean twin.
We are twins. We have the same birthday. Isn't that cool?
Yes. It was lovely.
Ah, well, it's an absolute pleasure, and I say the truth, truly the truth. Your legacy is like, it's huge. It's valid, especially in the music industry. And not only that, you're still doing what you do, and still relevant in your life. So here we are. We're going to just chat about everything. We got so much, and the naughty stories that I've heard about you, darling. Anyway, can we start at the beginning? I know that you were a Potch boy. You started in Potch. That was
What a grand start that was.
That must have been, though. Come on, like a good start, a good grounding, hey?
Yes. Yes, I was born into a military family. My father was a battery commander of the artillery in Potch, and that's where I was born. And for the first week of my life, I was Christopher. And then when I was a week old, my father came home from the officers' mess, having had a few, and carrying a whole lot of cards from all his officer friends, and some gifts for the baby and for the mother.
Yes.
And my mother was shocked and horrified to see that on all the notes they said Stielgroete on Stoffels. So my mother said, but his name's not Stoffels. His name's Christopher. And my father said, yeah, but in Potch, Christopher is Stoffels. So I very suddenly became Patrick without a K. I still don't quite know why.
Well, there you go. And you and your sister.
Cheryl was born in Bloemfontein. And,
Okay.
who's the famous guy from Lord of the Rings who was born in Bloemfontein?
I can't remember.
The writer of Lord of the Rings.
The writer, Tolkien.
Yes, Tolkien.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
Was born in Bloemfontein.
Sure.
So I said to Cheryl, you've got good company. And and as you know, she's gone on to do some weird and wonderful things in her life.
Absolutely.
And still does.
I just wanted to mention her because I have also very great memories of Cheryl. She also was in the music business and she's a wonderful person. So,
Right.
yeah. So, okay. So, school and all that stuff. When did this music thing grab you?
Well, when I was at Grey College in Bloemfontein, because we moved from Potch to Bloemfontein, uh, an unbelievable thing happened to me. I heard, I started, my mum always had music playing. So I heard things like the Yellow Rose of Texas and
Uh
all
huh.
that kind of stuff. And then I heard two artists who, I know this always sounds very cliche, but two artists who really did change my life. And believe it or not, I heard these artists in Bloemfontein and I bought their 78 shellacs. The one was Little Richard.
Huh?
And can you imagine Little Richard in Bloemfontein? And the other was Elvis Presley.
But of
And
course.
for the longest time, I tried to emulate his hairstyle. The Beatles made it a lot easier. But Little Richard and Elvis uh, just electrified me and changed everything uh, I was thinking about. At the same time, Cliff Richard came along, but in those days, you had to either be an Elvis fan or a Cliff Richard fan. So I was an Elvis fan. But those were the three big acts. Then I moved to Pretoria Boys High,
Yes.
and it was while I was at Pretoria Boys High that the Beatles and the whole Liverpool sound and Mersey sound broke. And my God, that didn't change my life. That overturned my life.
I'm sure.
And like thousands, millions of other kids around the
Yes.
world, I joined a band where I was a terrible bass player and an even worse singer, but I was in a band called the
Yeah.
Howling Wolves
Okay.
after the blues singer Howling Wolf.
Yes. That's a brilliant start.
Yeah.
And of course, it was all that. I mean, those are the first guys that did rock and roll, so to speak. Little Richard was like that fast, crazy stuff, and Elvis was moving, and then the Beatles, of course. I mean, that could change anybody's lives.
And the
So,
interesting thing that the Beatles and the Stones and a lot of the other bands like Manfred Mann, ex-South African, and
yes,
the Animals, they were
yes,
all the original covers and inspiration were the American blues artists,
yes, of
which white
course,
America had never, ever been exposed to. And
yes.
it took acts like the Beatles and the Stones and Animals, Manfred, to take that blues back to America. Uh, but really, that's where it
And
originally came from.
twisted, yes,
Mm.
because then it twisted into the Negro blues, which
Yeah,
which was a different growth. It was a different stem from the tree, you know.
yeah. Well, out of that blues, if you think of, uh, you know, the Stones' first single was a Chuck Berry hit, and
Yes,
the Beatles had an American number one, but it was only an American number one with Twist and Shout, and the Animals with House of the Rising Sun,
yeah,
and so on and so on. But that then all morphed into from the Black American side into rhythm and blues as we knew it then. Aretha
exactly.
Franklin, Otis
Yes.
Redding, etc.
Well, I was talking to Josh Sclair last week, and he was saying how he'd played a gig with Aretha, and he'd been playing with Etta James, and it was all that kind of stuff, that jazzy blues stuff. Um, it's also a different branch from the tree, but I think essentially, don't you think music all comes from one place, from the heart? You
Well,
know,
I think so. Yeah,
it
absolutely.
it just comes from the heart. Whatever you play, even the punk bands. I mean, that was
Yeah,
crazy shit. It was like, rah, 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 rah. But it came from their heart, and they were so committed, and that's what moves people, Patrick.
yeah. From the heart and having something to say and trying to say it
Yes,
and wanting to say
yes,
it, and they've
yes,
all said it in different ways. You mentioned the punk and the new age and new wave romantics and jazz and even
Yes.
classical.
Yes.
It's all an expression of an internal emotion, which is the heart.
Yes. I love that.
And it's amazing when you think of people, really prolific writers like Paul McCartney and Paul Simon. Where does it come from? It's so many of them have said it, and I've experienced it. People say to me, "How did you write Paradise Road?" And the only answer I can say is, I honestly don't know. It just came.
Came to me. That's the thing.
It's something from the ether
Yeah.
and from the inside.
I've always said we are just messengers. We get the
Spot on.
message and we impart the knowledge, because that's our role in this. Any writers or people that are putting something down that people will be affected by, you know.
Absolutely. It's I think saying we're the messengers is a beautiful way of putting it. And and a variation on that was David Bowie when he did his album Pin-Ups, where he did
Wow.
covers. The entire album was covers, which was a few albums after Ziggy Stardust.
Yes.
And they said to him, "Well, why did you do now? You're such a great writer. Why did you do an album of covers?" He says, "Because I've learned from every single one of those people and many, many others. And
Yeah.
we musicians and writers are like photostat machines. we borrow,
Of course.
not in a
Absolutely.
plagiarism way,
No.
but in an inspirational way.
Sure.
We hear something and say, wow, you know,
Yeah.
and that sets you off in a whole new tangent.
Absolutely. And also there's only so many chords, you know. I mean, when you think about it, but the derivatives of them and the way they're put together, I mean, it's phenomenal when you think about it, what can
But
be created.
the real magic is the melody on top of that chord.
course.
I mean, it's the most mysterious thing ever.
It is. I just wanted to let you know that there's a couple of people that have come on to say hi to you. Henny Hugo says, "So great to see my friend Patrick."
Hi, Henny. He's a great music fan, and his number one band in the world is the band.
Oh, wow. Well, we do love the band. Of course we do.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with the band. Mark Vass is here to say hello.
Oh, hello, Mark. I was telling them about Mark Fuss, and they were telling me about Mark Vass.
It was lovely. I said, you're the only guy we could talk to get any kind of South African songs or whatever is Mark Vass. He says, oh, but I've got this guy that sends me stuff now and then. His name is Mark Vass. And I said, no, I used to call him Mark Vass. It's Vass. Okay.
Well, in fact, I contacted Mark about the show, and he was fantastic. He sent me a lot of stuff, and Mark, if you're listening, I said I wasn't aware of the fact that you were into the visual side of it as well and video side of it.
Yeah.
So if I've been a pain in the you know what up until now, you better get ready.
It's gonna double, baby. We're getting in there because now he knows what you got.
Yeah.
Everybody is of some value in the world, hey?
Absolutely.
And my friend Marion, always greetings from Hanover in Germany. And Philippa Back. Hi, Mr. P. Good to hear your stories and your good vibe. Philippa Back.
Philippa is our slave who
poor girl.
who finds we're now sampling radio stations all around the world. We've got a sampling of 6,000, which is still a small fraction, but at least we're getting to it, because I suddenly realized that if you're not signed with a major and there are only 3 of them left in the world, how on earth do you get heard around the world?
Sure.
So Philippa was going into splendid retirement, and I said, how would you like to track down radio stations all over the world? And she's done a brilliant job.
Wow.
And hopefully she's going to continue doing it. just
Well, that
finding radio
sounds great.
stations around the world, and we sample them right here from Cape Town.
I was just going to say, so you're the guys to go to if we release something new or whatever, and we
Absolutely.
wanted to.
Yeah,
Okay. So as I
yeah.
said to you earlier, that these interviews, all the people out there that are listening, they're not just about us talking. We learn things from each person that comes on this show, and we help each other. And someone says, "Oh, would you tell me about so and so? Would you hook me up with this thing?" It's a beautiful symbiotic thing, and I am so grateful to be able to do this. I'm just thrilled. I love it.
I must tell you a quick little story about Philippa.
We need
Very,
stories,
very
right?
recently, with a new co-writer of mine and his lady, Yako and Zoe.
Yes.
I don't quite know. We were talking about other projects, and all of a sudden, I'm a great fan of politics and
Mm.
apart from South African politics, American politics. And when I realized in the recent elections how critical Georgia was going to be to the entire election, because if the Democrats won Georgia, it would be an enormous help to the incoming president, Joe Biden.
Biden, yeah.
So with Yoko, I wrote a song called "Georgia Is Mine," and his lady, who's a magnificent singer, she's not well known yet, performed it, and I said to the very same Philippa, I want you to just zero in on Georgian radio stations. It doesn't matter if they're country, soul,
Yes, yes.
blues, whatever, pop. And we just blitzed Georgia with the song, and we got enormous playlisting, and well, the
That's
Democrats
brilliant.
won.
Maybe you had a little bit to do with it.
Yeah.
I think that's great, though. It's like influences. Well, we know music is huge, and it is an influencer. Janice, I saw you there too. Hi, honey. Henny's going mad. He's like really loving this. I love your WhatsApp about music. Paradise Road. We're going to talk about all that stuff. I want to talk about your first foray into the sort of big leagues when I think you joined Gallo. Am I correct?
Correct.
Gallo was your first one. How was that?
Gallo was my first music industry job, but an interesting forward to that was I was meant to become a professional journalist, but I was so swept away, starting with the early inspirations that we talked about, Elvis and Little Richard, and then ultimately the Beatles, which took me through my high school years. The idea of becoming a full-time journalist got less and less attractive, but my family couldn't imagine that anybody could go into the music industry and make a living. So I joined the Pretoria News as a journalist, and I bullied my way into the show business side. But what I really wanted to do was be in the music industry. And at that stage, there was EMI in Gallo, and I got a break in Gallo by doing something quite naughty but nice. I was writing music
Naughty
reviews.
story number one, people. Naughty story number one.
I was writing music reviews, and one of the reviews I had to write was of Guy Corsten. Today, many decades later, I can appreciate the value of Guy Corsten artistically. At the time, it was a blue million miles of where I needed to be. Anyway, guess what? I wrote not a dishonest, but a persuasive review of Guy Corsten, which was just glowing, which of course thrilled Gallo, and I got my first interview.
Well, there you go.
and shortly thereafter, much to the horror of the Pretoria News, I left Pretoria News to join Gallo. But at Gallo, it was less than glamorous. I was picking records and packaging them and dispatching them in the warehouse, and then going on the road and selling records. But it gave me a grounding in the nuts and bolts of how the record industry worked.
Yes,
and it was being at Gallo that I met my first real break into the creative side of the music industry, and that was the songwriter producer Terry Dempsey,
Ah,
and he lured
wow.
me away from Gallo, and we became partners, and out of that came Dave Mills with Love Is a Beautiful Song,
Ah,
Lauren Copley with Kentucky Blues, and so on and so on and so on, and that
that's huge
got me,
stuff.
yeah, and that got me into the creative side of the industry as an independent, not with a major. And I've been
Yes.
independent ever since.
That's one of the things I wanted to mention is that it wasn't very cool to be an independent in those days. It was sort of, you're an independent, Yeah, people looked down their noses at the indies in those days. Of course, they've come such a long way. But when you think about it, I mean, all your labels were indie labels. Even
Yeah.
when you joined Tusk and then you moved out and then you joined this and you so Terry Dempsey wrote some songs for Clout, and I've known Terry also since the beginning of my career.
Yeah.
A very good songwriter, solid guy, and
Yeah.
you definitely, I bet you learned from Gallo to Terry Dempsey was already a big jump into, as you said, learning the creative side and all this different stuff. I mean, takes you to a
Yeah.
different
Terry,
place.
Terry really taught me how to work the industry, how
Mm,
important writing was, how
mm-hmm.
important human connections were, particularly at radio. And
Sure.
and 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 just you took a no as a maybe.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely. Those, yeah.
Terry also
Nobody
taught
ever
me.
took it.
Terry also taught me how to party, and I don't know if I should thank him. He taught me how to drink.
You must thank him because we all have to learn these things as part of the music business, baby. You
Yeah,
know, we had to. I mean,
sure.
I was such an innocent when I started. I never drank. I think I smoked cigarettes. That was it. I was like wide-eyed, and then years later, I'm like, I should have partied more, man.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Avico.
Oh, okay. Well, that was very interesting. After leaving Terry,
Yes,
I beg your pardon. After leaving Gallo, I joined Terry, and
yes.
then I felt Terry. We had 20 top 20 hits together in South Africa, literally in 1 year. It was unbelievable.
That is
But Terry
huge.
really had his heart set on the world market at that stage. I think we all did, but for Terry, it was an absolute reality.
Mm.
And he'd he'd got he'd got an Engelbert Humperdinck cover, and he was trying very very hard for a Tom Jones cover. He was friends with manager of Tom and Engelbert, and then out of the blue, he got the David Cassidy cover of Daydreamer, which went to #1.
Yeah.
And then he decided to move to England.
Yes.
And at that stage, the three big independent producers, and you know them all, was Terry, Billy Forrest, and of course Graham Beggs.
Graham Biggs. Yes, of course.
And and I think Terry was the first to move to London, and then Graham sometime later uh, followed him. But so I had to find my feet all on my own now. And
Right.
somebody told me, I can't even remember, actually I can, but I can't remember his name now. Some guy who used to sing songs about catching fish, Fissel, I don't know. He told me there was
Billy
this,
Forrest.
no, it wasn't quite Billy, but it
It
was,
wasn't Billy. And I know that it came from there because they told me that story as well.
yes. And they told me that there was these two guys, the two Allens in Athol, who had a teeny weeny little studio. Anyway, I
Mm.
went there and we clicked immediately, and the studio was just covered in Hessian and a couple of egg boxes. And the recording setup was two-track Revoxes. That was what it was.
So you had
And we
four
bounced
tracks.
from two-track to two-track to two-track.
Those are
And
the
it was at that
days.
point, and then we went into a partnership, and it was at that point that my Following the Flames, which Graham Beggs had produced, Flames out
Yes.
of Durban, my new South African heroes were Freedom's Children. And I was a
Yes.
devotee of Julian Laxton. And at that
Yes.
stage, Clive Calder and Ralph Simon had a lease on a club called the Out of Town Club, somewhere in the northern suburbs.
Yes.
And they used to have concerts on the weekends. And there was a concert of Freedom's Children doing that phenomenal benchmark South African album called Astra.
Oh,
And I dragged a whole lot of people along, and we went along to see Freedoms with Julian and all the other great guys in it. But then something else happened.
conglomeration.
A young trio called Conglomeration came on, and oh my God, I was just devastated. And I tracked down Trevor Rabin that night, and I
Yes.
had him in the studio the very next morning.
Unbelievable.
And the first record we made on two-track Revoxes was a cover of Locomotive Breath by
I
Jethro
remember
Tull,
that. Remember
which
that
became
very
the first
clearly.
Rabbit single and the first hit.
Absolutely.
And that came out of Orvico.
Everybody must go and try and look that up somewhere, find it, because it was so good. You see, I think that's around when I met you because I was friends with Alan Rosenberg.
Oh, yes. He was great friends with Alan Goldberg and Alan Gee.
Yes,
Yes.
and Alan was also had sung with Conglomeration. He was their singer for a
I
while.
didn't know that.
Yeah, he was their singer, and then they changed around and then started working as a three-piece and stuff. So that's when I met you, and you listened to me sing and you said, "Oh, you're quite good," and tapped me on the shoulder or something. I can't remember.
Wow,
But
I must have had my ears closed or been very drunk
no,
to
you were
just.
probably otherwise distracted. I mean, so that was the start of Rabbit,
Oh, wow!
really.
So you came to Orvico?
I came to Ovika and I remember
Oh,
walking
wow!
upstairs. Was there an
Yes,
upstairs
that's
thing?
right.
And you
That's
go in
right.
the door at the top. I'll never
Tiny
forget it
little,
because tiny
yeah.
little space, and I sang for you. But I don't think you were looking for any artists and stuff. And funnily enough, Trevor then went on to say to me, "Listen, I think you'd be a great country singer. Do you want to do a country album with me?" And he started working at RPM.
Wow!
So all these little mixed
Did you do a
stories.
country album with him?
I was going to, and then Clout happened.
All right. Well, interestingly enough, talking about Alan Rosenberg, another
Yes.
connection to Conglomeration was Cedric Sampson's father apparently managed them for a bit and gave them their first live gigs.
Yeah, I think they used to play at the
Sammy Sampson, yeah.
Cosmopolitan. What was that place called? The Cosmopolitan in town or something? There was another
I
big
can't
club. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a big club, like funky club, and they were playing there as well.
But the other thing about Orvico, some very, very, very big names in the industry came into that studio either to work or to listen or to meet. And I refer to Clive Calder, who is today the richest man in the music industry in the world, ahead of Paul
Yes,
McCartney, ahead
yes,
of Andrew Lloyd Webber, and his then partner, Ralph Simon.
yes, of course.
They came in. And of course, through them in came Mutt Langer, who
The
who
men,
just became one of the biggest producers in the world.
absolutely.
I read an obituary today of Phil Spector,
Spectre, yeah.
and they only mentioned two other producers that they put in Spector's league, and one was Mutt Langer.
Well,
And
he
Stevie
is.
Langer and Mutt and Alan Goldswain used to have and I think Bobby Lowe. They had four. If you wanted backup singers in those days, you phoned them, and they came.
Always.
So Stevie and Mutt on a ton of records I made at Orvico.
Well, those were the thing. I mean, I used to hear about these session singers, and it was always Stevie Van Kerken, and of course Nata Langer. So besides the fact that you got this rabbit thing going, it was so huge. People didn't even realize it at the time. Only afterwards they looked back and went, "Oh my God, what was that?" you know.
Yeah,
It was like that. It was like, that was Joburg Records.
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
remember.
you know, Rabbit was, so many people have said to me, when are you going to do another Rabbit? And my answer just is, I have no idea.
How?
I probably never will. It was such a unique combination of people in the same place at the same time.
Now that
And
is it.
the connection, when Trevor Rabin and I immediately clicked, and then I clicked with Ronnie and Neil. Duncan wasn't in the band yet.
That's correct. I remember.
But then, and he was the younger brother of the director, Bill
Of Bill
Forer.
Forer, yeah.
But Duncan was hounding me. He was taking a Putco bus from Pretoria every second day and would come and sit in my office and say, you've got to listen to my songs. And, my thinking at the time was, my God, with Trevor's voice, which, if you will, for a second, being a bit fanciful, was the McCartney.
Yes, yes,
Duncan Forer was the Lennon.
yes.
And in the beginning, there was such a tight knit group between Trevor, Ronnie, and Neil.
Neil, because they'd been playing together for years.
Yeah, they weren't very, very keen, but I pushed, and once Duncan got into the group, it was just like natural combustion.
That was it, absolutely.
And then to add to the sparkle was I brought in Julian Laxton as a co-producer and engineer.
Yeah. The right man for the job.
It was just explosive.
Yeah. Well, it was exactly that. That's the good word. Explosive. The meeting of, such great musicians, of course, and Trevor being the absolute star that he is. And everybody, it's the combination of everybody that made it happen. But also, you've got to have a good producer, and you've got to have somebody that gets it.
Yeah.
And Julian, of all people, he'd also grown up with them. He got it.
Yeah. Yeah, and excuse me, we were lucky. We got the right songs, the right records. Radio was so positive about them, notwithstanding the slight underground controversy over Charlie. And it was just the start of TV. And
yes.
I know you've got that little clip where they're in feathers. They look absolutely ridiculous now.
No, but it was fantastic. We've got to look at that.
Ann Williams put that all together. And the Sunday Times, represented by Doug Gordon, really became their weekly fan club newsletter.
Yes, they loved them.
On the front page.
All the time.
And when that video, coupled with the fact that Charlie had become a radio hit, when that video of Ann's broke, the earth moved.
It did. Before we play the video, just quickly, hi Hazel, Suzanne Brenner's on board. I had to time down at San when I employed him as a columnist on Express Beat. And this is the video we're talking about, people. This is the beautiful video.
Such a beautiful thing to do. Though at times you hurt me, I buzz each night on you. Oh, what times we've had together, the crazy things we've done, enough to fill my memory. Keep me loving Charlie, Charlie. Though you're not as paranoid as Lady Marmalade, really much more Charlie, oh Charlie, 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 Charlie,
Whoa. You know what? Whatever it was just, as you said, the combination. It was a great song. The boys were beautiful. The music was good. It was a time of our lives.
It really was. And incidentally, that wasn't the full video that
Yes.
Anne and Johan Engels worked on and designed. I think our aforementioned friend Mark Fuss has done a composite, but I thought it was fabulous. It brought in a whole lot of different aspects of them at the time.
Definitely. Yeah.
Another factor I must mention
Yes.
at this stage, just as Rabbit were breaking on record, and we were starting to get inundated for them to do live shows. I mean, in the record company, there was no one who could play manager. I mean, I was playing manager by default.
Yes.
And then I spoke to. I was desperate to capture this, and as they say, take it on the road. And I didn't know who to approach, and I don't know how I got to. Oh, she was recording for our label at the time, Manie Gravier, who I'm sure you remember.
Of course, I know Manie.
I spoke to Manie, and I said, "Look, I need somebody to manage Rabbit," and she said, Mike Fuller has just disbanded the Delians.
Yes.
And he's resting on, I think, a farm she had somewhere out of Cape Town. And I contacted Mike, and he was able to take what we created on record, into far greater territory. And it was at that stage he also started working with Margaret Singana.
Yes.
And did much the same for her. And I think eventually had something to do with you and Clout, didn't he?
He did. He became our road manager as well. Yes, he did.
Okay.
And he was also Hotline's road manager.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah. Oh, Rabbit. I communicate with Trevor a lot, and he has a little bit of a scoop.
Yes.
45 years later.
Yes, I heard the news.
Trevor and I have written a follow-up.
Oh my God.
Which he is recording literally as we speak in his studio at his home in LA.
Yeah.
And I've done another very interesting version. Neither are released, and I would never release this other one, without Trevor say so. But during lockdown, I was in touch with someone who you might well know as well, a phenomenal talent called Ashton Knight.
Yes.
Who had a goth band in Joburg in the 80s.
Yes.
Called The Awakening. And I bumped into him at Robert Schroeder's studio where he was doing backing vocals, and I never really understood the whole goth thing, but I was fascinated by Ashton Knight's talent. And then he moved to America, and during lockdown he was stuck in St. Louis, where he lives, in a lovely house in like a forest in the snow. And he said, let's do something. So I said, well, you know what? Trevor has been so bogged down with movies and more movies and more movies. I'm going to send you something we did together, and let's see what you can come up with. And in his little studio in St. Louis, he did this. He did this song called "Hopelessly Heartbroken," and then sent it back to us in Cape Town, and we're still working on the production. And in LA, Trevor's working on the same song, so it's going to be very interesting. But it's a follow-up 45 years later.
Wow. Oh my God. Is it still going to be called Charlie? Charlie 2?
No, it's It's a far more serious song. It's called Hopelessly Heartbroken.
Okay. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
But you're not hopelessly heartbroken, darling.
No, 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 no.
Not at all.
Like you well know, this industry, when you fall, you got to fall forward.
Yes,
And we
yes.
fall plenty times.
We fall plenty times.
And you got to be able to roll with the blows and take the punches.
And get up again.
And get up again. And
Yeah.
And like my friend Robert Schroeder, that's where I got that expression. You take a no as a maybe.
Maybe. No. Definitely, especially, if we had to count all our disappointments, that would be interesting. All our expectations,
Sometimes I feel sorry for people who get a smash out of the box with their first single.
I know.
But so many of them never get
it again.
Match it, and it's a slippery slope from then. Obviously, they're the giant acts who have just kept churning out hit after hit after hit. And we know those people, and they are just extra specially blessed.
Yes.
But for a lot of new acts coming up with a really monster track or a short hot run, very often find it difficult to follow it.
Definitely. Difficult to follow it, and then difficult to maintain some semblance of a life after that, because what do you do? So I suppose my clout story was like that, big whoop, 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 and then nothing. Nobody, begs, made sure that, nobody was going to touch me. And so I'm just speaking, I'm not even bitter or anything, it's all old, but I'm just talking about an example of that kind of thing, where you spend, or not, I didn't spend the rest of my life trying to get it back, but it's a part of you, definitely, and that's very hard. This business, my God.
It is. It's very hard. I mean, it's unthinkable to think of it now, but after Trevor left Rabbit, I ended up in a major lawsuit with Trevor, which was awful. It was horrible.
Oh my God.
But when it was all said and done, I'm very good friends with him again.
Yes.
I used to see a little bit of Ronnie Robot, but he's left the country as well now.
Yes, he's in England.
And of course, Duncan is, I think, in LA.
I think he's in Vegas, maybe. I heard, because I want to get his number.
I want to. Vegas. You're quite
no, that's fine. I want to get him on the show.
Yeah. And I think he's got in a duo with Woody from the Bay City Rollers.
They're still working together, I think so. Yeah.
That's the last I heard.
Yeah.
And
Neil,
look at the terrible time they had when the Bay City Rollers came tumbling down.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, if you can't, one thing a musician and people in the music business know, the word is resilience.
Absolutely.
Here, for example, right now in this time that we're in, I've spoken to it about many of the musicians that have spoken to me. And they said, we learn how to be resilient. We learn how to be survivors because we are kicked down so many times and so many claps across the head, that you get used to it. It's like, oh, another one. Ha, ha, ha. Let's get up and keep going,
Yeah.
Although it's not pleasant and it's not easy. Mark Vass is still there. Dave Supcleve. Hello, Dave.
Ah, Dave.
Davey, baby.
Give him a kiss.
Mwah. I'd love to give him a kiss. He kisses very well, by the way. Oh, did I just say that on air? How terrible of me. My friend Bev is on. Suzanne Brenner's just sending lots of love and kisses. Christian Stain. Hi, Christian. Anthony at World Leisure. He's always in Mallorca, but he loves to come on the stream. And Anthony says he salutes Patrick from Shoreline Songs, Cock Bay to Palma.
Oh, wow. Well,
Isn't Shoreline
when
Robin
he's
Ald's
right here.
business? Yes,
Yeah.
he's right here.
Shoreline, that's a great name.
That is, I think, isn't it Robin Ald's company? I don't know. I can't remember. Maybe
It might be.
who knows?
I
Okay,
don't,
so
I obviously know Robin All, and I've met him a few times, but I don't really know him very well at all. But
he's a
I
lovely,
love his
lovely
early
man.
work. It might be his company.
Yeah.
I'd like to interject, if I may. You mentioned Suzanne
Please.
Brenner.
Oh God, yes.
Suzanne
She told us a naughty story.
Has been a great running mate over the years, even through my wicked, wicked, evil ways. In fact,
bravo, darling, bravo.
I had my very, 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 very last drink with Suzanne, and that's almost a quarter of a century ago.
Wow.
And Julian mentioned earlier he was having a non-alcoholic beer. After 25 years of sobriety, during lockdown, I was with a bunch of friends in a restaurant, and they were really furious that they couldn't have a drink, so they ordered non-alcoholic beers. And I said, you know what?
I'm going to have.
Why don't I try that? So now I have a couple of them. But I digress. The story with Sue. Yes, she gave me that column, which was fantastic, on the Sunday Express. So I got to meet a lot of international superstars.
Yes.
Hazel Feldman would call me up whether it was so many big names I met to interview them.
Yes.
But Sue played a very important part, not only in us acquiring Virgin Records many years later.
Yes, she did.
When Peter Cook and I had Principal Records, she played a behind-the-scenes role in us getting Virgin, which was a massive breakthrough, because straight after that, Culture Club and Boy George broke and UB40.
Absolutely.
But probably the biggest favor Sue ever did me was I happened to be in Holland at the time that Margaret Sagana was #1 with We Are Growing. And I got a call from an engineer who you may remember, Phil Edouard, who used to work at
Yes, Phil Edouard, absolutely.
Phil now was sailing a boat in Durban and living in the harbour. And he called me and he said, look, you're in Holland. You can get to France in 2 ticks. There's a band breaking there. You should try and sign them. So I thought, well, why not? I felt king of the castle. We Are Growing. Shaka Zulu was all over the world. We Are Growing was breaking in a lot of markets, was 4th week, #1 in Holland. So I thought, why not? So I took a plane to Paris. I contacted the people. I'd never, ever met them before. I'd never heard of them. And you're not going to believe the name of the band. The band was the Gypsy Kings.
Ah, the Gypsy Kings.
And
wow.
God, I had a meeting with, they were just breaking. They were just breaking in England and France. And anyway, I managed to sign them. Sadly, not for the world, but only for South Africa, but still that was. And
they were from France, weren't they?
Yeah, they're French gypsies.
That's right, because I met them. They were also doing a show. Was it Castro was their record company? What was his name? I can't remember. Anyway.
The French record company label escapes my memory now, but I do know I took the lady.
Celluloid Records, maybe.
Ah, yes, it may well have been.
Okay,
what I do remember is that before signing the contract, I took the French lady from the record company to lunch in France, and we got very, very merry and jolly. I was going to say merry. But I nevertheless signed the contract. And then I was so excited when I thought, wow, a gypsy band. What is this? What did Phil Edouard tell me to come to Paris for? So I came back to South Africa, and then I did a little bit of homework, and I could see they were breaking everywhere. And I listened to Valare and Bambaleo, and I thought, my God, these are monsters, and the energy out of that band. So I raced to radio with it, and I got rejected at every single solitary station. Word of honor.
Wow.
I then called Hazel Feldman, who I'm interestingly enough in contact with on a daily basis now. She's keeping me up to speed about the health of her cousin, the great Percy Tucker, the founder of CompuTicket,
Oh, yes.
who is very, very ill in hospital at the moment.
Very
And
bad.
so she's keeping me up to speed with Percy's health. But in those days, she was the big Mahulu at Sun City.
Sun City.
Signing all the acts for Soul. So I phoned her and I said, Hazel, I want to come through to Sun City now. And I could hear her in her voice. She said, oh, God, what now, Patrick? But anyway, out of courtesy, she said, let me go through. And I had all the videos and all the bump from Paris. And I did a presentation to her. And she said, oh, it's very nice. A bit like me with you in the studio. She said, but not now. We booked up with real monster acts at the moment. Let's see, maybe a little way down the road. And this is not to bitch, Hazel. We've all done this. About a year later, she called me and she said, Patrick, does that offer for Gypsy Kings still stand? Because they wanted me to get them into
mainstream.
And I said, well, look, they're so big now. I mean, I'm purely on the record side, but I'll put you in touch with the management. And they said, well, we could talk in 5 years' time. We're fully booked. And eventually she did sign them. And they came to Sun City. But,
God.
After the big wave of success had passed.
That's a good story.
You got them anyway, Hazel.
Eventually. Good one, Hazel. Morris Fresco. Hello, Morris.
Hello,
saying
Morris.
Hi to Patrick.
Morris, the man who played drums on Mammy Blue.
There you go. With sure. That is correct.
One of the biggest hits of all time, and Morris played drums.
Absolutely. It was, and you know who produced it? Graham Beggs. Yep. Yeah. Okay, so, wow. So, Cafe Casablanca, baby.
Holy moly.
Holy moly. So, for those of you that are overseas and don't know what we're talking about, this was innovation at its best. Tell us about it.
Well, my partner Charles and I had offices in Rocky Street, which I didn't know where it was when he took me there. And I'd never heard of the suburb, Bellevue East. But the only thing I could find was sort of Jewish delis and Indian haberdashery stores and aging blocks of flats. But anyway, Charles took a second floor with a long open balcony and for his then budding architectural company.
Yes.
But he had 10 times more space than he needed. Yes. So we moved Joburg Records in there. Okay. There was still space left over. So we started an art gallery called Space and Design. So we had a whole little thing going there. And then one day, and we used to throw the most outrageous parties up on that balcony for the art gallery, for the record company. And then one day he said to me, the little old man, one of those Jewish bicycle traders who had a funny little shop downstairs, who'd sold rally bicycles forever, was just found dead in the bicycle shop one day.
Oh my God.
And we went down, and boy, oh boy, oh boy, it was in the sweetest way. It was the grubbiest bicycle shop I've ever seen in my life. And it had been there for decades. So I looked at this and I said, and now? He said, I want us to start a small, exclusive, late night hangout for the people in show business. The artists, the musicians, the actors, the producers who want to go somewhere at 11 o'clock or midnight. And I said, in this funny little place called Rocky Street, Bellevue East, are you mad? Anyway, we did it. And he and some very creative friends did that phenomenal Art Deco decor. You know,
Oh,
the satin padded walls, the
oh,
silk ceilings, the mirrors, the leopard skin.
it was
And
so
of course,
beautiful.
it was, that was another explosion. I mean, I
Yes,
can't believe it seemed to rock Joburg.
it did rock
People
Joburg.
used to fight to get in there.
Yes,
My
they
favorite
did.
story on one particular night, and it only seated, I think, around 50, but it was tiny, as you remember. In one night, there was Sol and Annaline,
Oh,
and,
yes.
Wilma Lawson Bull,
So
Wilma
Turnbull,
Lawson
yeah.
Turnbull, and Adele Lucas,
Wow.
with a whole bunch of other socialites.
Yes.
One table away, sitting on his own, was Telly Savalas.
Oh, my God.
One table sitting on his own was Lee Marvin. They were both in the country doing movies at the time.
Oh, my God.
Running around with Adele was a songwriter called Barry Mason,
I
who
know
had
Barry.
written
Oh,
The
my
Last
God.
Waltz and
Barry
all those
Mason.
hits for Tom Jones. And in the little raised corner side was Johan Rupert. I mean, that's just a few people
Just
on
say, have
one
you got
night.
photos? Where are the photos, darling?
Not a,
Come
not
on.
a single photo.
Not a
Not
single
a single photo.
photo.
No.
My God. I mean, Cafe Casablanca, I remember I had a fight with I used to stay one block up from you guys in Bellevue East on Yeo Street. Sorry, two
Oh,
blocks, I
yes.
think. I was on Yeo Street, and I'd had a terrible fight with my boyfriend. It was par for the course. And we didn't have a phone. Our phone hadn't been installed yet. We just moved into this house. And I ran in my little shorts and I think it was in pajamas. I ran all the way to your shop, to your place. I said, please let me use the phone. Please let me use the phone.
My God.
And you did. You let me use the phone. At
Do you remember
11
we used
o'clock
to
at
have
night.
that black door, which
Yes.
you had to ring the bell?
Had to
And
ring
then
the
we used to look through a little
peephole.
eyeglass peephole, and if you look cool, the door
Yes.
would be open just a fraction. And if you sounded cool, Dirk Pont, you remember Dirk?
Dirk, of course,
Norman,
Dirk.
he used to
Absolutely.
let you in. But
Absolutely.
9 out of 10 people got turned away because it was too small. So people used to date each other on condition they could get you into Cafe Casablanca.
Yeah, those are the days, darling. Oh my God.
God, madness.
It
The
is
grind.
madness, but beautiful memories and such special things and such innovative times, you know. That will
Yeah.
be one of the ones that sit up there, you know, like forever.
Yeah.
Please, I want to play that Margaret Singana video. I love that song. Jules,
We are,
I'd love to, because yeah, we are growing. Such a brilliant, brilliant song.
well, thank you. Well, should we
Yeah,
play it and then we'll chat about it?
definitely. That's why I wanted to have it,
Okay.
because I mean, it's really time is flying. Wow. Hey?
It was beautiful to see that again, and it was so beautiful to hear Margaret and see Margaret again.
Oh,
She was
she was great.
probably the artist closest to my heart ever. I just absolutely loved her voice, and I loved her.
Oh,
And I'm
absolutely.
so sorry her career, although it was fabulous, was cut short by illness.
Yes.
But when I think of, I mean, that's got to be the most expensive music video ever made. That was
I
Bill
can
Ford,
imagine.
Duncan's older brother,
I remember that.
who I became very dear friends with as well. But that video exploded the song. And you know, there a lot of people deserve a quick mention there. Without a shadow of doubt, Margaret. Julian
Yes.
Laxton, who was my
Yes.
co-producer and engineer on that is classic Laxton, and
Absolutely.
never to be repeated. And you can hear
That
some of his
layered,
guitar in there.
yeah, that layered stuff is just powerful.
Bill, not Bill Forer, Dave Pollicut was also involved in the writing of it,
Dave.
and it was just a wonderful, again, connection of people. I met Bill through Duncan. I was in London with music publishers who specialized in film music, and I played them the song. It
Yes.
wasn't written for Shaka, incidentally. It was written quite a bit before.
Yes.
And I played it for these two publishers in a pub in England. And they said, but this has got to be the theme tune from Shaka Zulu. Now, I knew very little about it, other than just before I left for London, I'd seen a passing snippet that Bill Forer was doing a production. And I said, well, I happen to know Bill Forer. So they made me phone him from the pub. They got the phone before the cell phone. And
Yes.
Bill was on site in a showie.
Okay.
And I got through to him, and I said, Bill, I'm with two mad English publishers, but they say I've got the theme tune for this song. And he said, well, Dave has written all the other stuff, but he hasn't come up with a theme.
Wow.
So I said, well, they say this is it. And they were big time into film. So he said, get on a plane and come back now. And I had a whole lot of work to do in England, and I was on my way to America.
Okay.
You know what? I listened to him. The
Got
next
on
day
the
I was on a
plane.
flight back to South Africa. And Charles and I went in his father's beach buggy from Kingsborough into a showie, and we lived in Bill's house for 4 days while he was filming this. And I had to wait 4 days for him to even pay attention. One morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, he banged on the door. He said, I'm just back from shooting. I can listen to the song now. And I put it on a really crappy little cassette, excuse my French. And within 30 seconds, Bill said, that's the song. Fly with me to Joburg. We've got to talk to the
I got
SABC.
cold shivers.
And that was it.
Wow.
I mean, how lucky can you get?
But that's how it happens, Patrick. How many times have you just bumped into somebody and they say, you should try this and try that, and boom, it happens. I mean, that wasn't just your only things that happened. I mean, even Joy, you know, right place, right time. Weren't they singing sort of backup for Spirits Rejoice?
Yeah, that's right. They were
Yeah.
formed by the manager of Spirits Rejoice, the wonderful Linda Bernhard. Who now lives in
Linda
London.
Bernhard.
Yes.
Lovely Linda.
And her father, Ian Bernhard, who did more for
Yes.
black music and black
Sure.
musicians in South Africa than anybody else.
Absolutely.
But Linda, through Linda, I signed Spirits Rejoice, and we did an album, and we had a hit single called Shine On. And then she said, look, they're going to work with these three girls to hopefully broaden their appeal in their live shows. So I was introduced to Felicia and the late Annalene and the very recently late Toko. And Linda said, can't you write a song for them and as an introduction? So my main co-writer at that time was Francois Rus.
Yes,
and
Francois.
We wrote, and I promise you, I don't want to fib to you. I often find this, the songs you labor over longest and hardest are not the hits.
Absolutely,
and the projects you labor longest and hardest over sometimes never come off. So that was it. Linda signed this group, said, write a song for them. I went out with Francois. The song wrote itself in about, I don't want to lie, it was 5, 10, 15 minutes. We polished it up, certainly within an hour, and then we took to
That was it.
more leisurely conduct and over a few drinks in the late afternoon. But we came back. I came back to Cape. He lived out in the countryside outside of Joburg. I came back to Joburg, and I just had this hook in my head, and I thought, this is a monster.
Yeah.
And then when we started to record it, and we did most of the backtrack was done by Xperience Rejoice.
Mm-hmm.
And when those girls put their vocals on it, I just thought, oh my God. The second part of the story I have to tell.
Please.
I just thought this is one of the most special things I've ever had the privilege to be involved in. And we finished the record. Greg Cutler was the engineer, Linda's then husband.
Really, that's right, yes.
And he'd worked with many, many big Super Hot Sticks, Mabuza, Amapondo. He'd worked with a lot of black bands. Oh, there you go. You weren't a black band, but you...
No, we weren't. But we went black.
There you go. Anyway, we finished the record, and it was great. And it was like something I told you earlier. Well, like the Gypsy King story, almost repeated. I ran to radio. I was so excited. And I sampled all radio, and most of them were my friends at that time. And in those days, all the radio stations were in the SABC before they spread out all over the country. And the next day, every single solitary radio station bombed the record. They said no.
Oh my God. You're kidding.
Turn that off, Charlie. Sorry.
Not that far, Charlie. Now we can't see him.
Want it on again? Okay, switch it on again now.
Pitch black.
Okay, turn it on. So
yes,
this happened 4 weeks in a row. 4 weeks in a row, I would go to the SABC. I hired limos. I arrived with champagne in limos. I took them to fantastic lunches. In fact, the head of Radio 5 FM at that time, Gordon Hoffman, said, I object to being hyped like this. Anyway, 4 weeks later, the record was totally rejected by all radio stations. Most of them deny it now, but that's the part, that's show business, isn't it?
Yes, indeed.
And I sat there and I thought, what do I do? Do I put this record in my bottom drawer and go on to the next thing? And I thought, no, I can't. And then I remembered that David Gresham had a program at 5:30, the 5:30 special on what was then Springbok Radio.
Yes.
And David and I had been colleagues and associates, but never very, very great friends. And when we were overseas at Midem, we were competitors. There was nobody more competitive than another South African at Midem. You know, we used to
of course,
do awful things to each other.
Because we were so small. Awful things to each other.
Anyway, I called up David and I said, David, can I come and see you? And I went to him and I told him the sad story I've just told him now. And we were having lunch at David's desk, which wasn't my style. And there wasn't any Sauvignon Blanc.
No, damn it.
A big gin to start with. Anyway, David put on the record and he just leapt up. He said, this is an absolute smash. I said, well, my God, you're the only person in the country saying this. He said, listen to my program this afternoon. And that afternoon, he opened and closed and in the middle played Paradise Road. And he did that for the entire week. And 1 month later, the record was #1 in South Africa, #1 on 5FM, which rejected it. And every single radio station was playing it, and all told me how much they loved it the first time they heard it. And if it wasn't for Gruesome Gresh, that song would never have been a hit.
Well, look at that. You see, after all these things you say, you know, that South Africans are very competitive and we fight with each other for that number one position. But we do help each other in the end, hey, somewhere along the line.
To this day, David and Ismay and Charles and I have a Christmas lunch every Christmas.
I love it.
Cape Town.
I love it.
Sadly, COVID bombed it this last Christmas.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But the
Julian,
very first time when I moved to Cape Town, I said, David, I know you and Ismay are Jewish, but will you come to Christmas lunch?
Absolutely. Listen, all the Jews love Christmas lunch, darling. Trust me. It's my favorite thing. In fact, in LA, this Jew used to make Christmas lunch for everybody. Do we have a copy of Paradise Road anyway? Did we have a copy there, Jules? If we do, geez, I love that song. You know that
there was a video, but we must speak to our friend
Mark Vass.
Vass.
Here we got something.
Come with me down Paradise Road. This way, please. I'll carry your load. This you won't believe. Come with me to paradise skies. Look outside and open your eyes. Oh, this you must believe. There are better days before us, and a burning bridge behind us. Fire smoking, the sky is blazing. There's a woman waiting, weeping, and a young man nearly beaten. Oh, for love. Paradise was almost closing down. Come with me to paradise days. It'll change your life, and it'll sure change your way. This you won't believe. Take my hand down Paradise Lane, away from heartache, without any pain. I know, 'cause I believe. There are better days before us, and a burning bridge behind us. Fire smoking, the sky is blazing. There's a woman waiting, weeping, and a young man nearly beaten. Oh, for love. There are better days before us. There are better days before us, and a burning bridge behind.
Phew. What can I say
Oh,
to that?
wow.
Doesn't that make you feel beautiful, Patrick?
It fills my heart with great gratitude and joy.
Gratitude, joy, and pride. What you've done in this industry. I'm getting such beautiful messages still. They're coming in fast and furious. We need a part 2 with Patric van Blerk. I think we're going to have one.
That would be lovely.
That would be so perfect. Helen Spiller Peterson is just.
Oh my
clapping.
goodness gracious!
I know she was from.
She's the mad woman of Cape Town. No, she's a
That's
divine
brilliant.
lady. She's our Kentucky bluebird. She comes from
Oh,
Bowling Green, Kentucky,
I
and
love
she's
it.
married to Paul Peterson of
Yes.
Spirits rejoice.
Spirits rejoice. That's correct. I remember I had that in my, I got
Yeah.
it in my little information there. Patrick, we've also got Tony Goza. You remember Tony Goza?
Yes.
From Fat
yes.
City. He's saying, good
Yes.
evening, Cindy and Patrick. Alex Mayer.
Wow.
Alex
Alex?
Mayer, much respect to Patrick, all talent and kindness.
Oh, wow. Alex is one of the bright new talents.
I'm looking
of,
forward to hearing his stuff.
of the country. He's a great producer, engineer, musician.
Ooh, sounds good to me. Another message from Suzanne. She's just loving the show. And
Tell her to go and make dinner for her husband.
Go make dinner for your husband, Suze. and we've been wanting to get lunch, but we just haven't made it. Sandra Joubert. Thank you. All these interviews, she's loving them. Shanae Ben. That's my landlord.
Oh, that's right. Hi, Shanae.
Shanae.
I'm glad thank you for listening in.
You know, Patrick, I seriously can keep talking. I mean, we are like way over, and I don't care. What I definitely have to ask you, I mean, the Margaret stuff, and amongst all this joy, there's a bit of heartbreak as well, because we've lost people and we've lost parts of ourselves along the way, and hopefully are still in not in pieces, but in peace, you know? Where are you in your life right now, Patrick? Are you at peace right now?
Well,
It's quite a heavy question, I know.
That's a very good question to ask, because I am. My life, I am at peace, finally. And that's one of the things I suppose I'm starting to understand about growing old. It gives you a certain wisdom and a rear view mirror
perspective
view of your life. I'm more aware than ever of the many mistakes and wrong decisions I made. But there were a few that I made right. And today, I have a beautiful partner and a beautiful home in Cape Town. I have a beautiful business partnership and recording studios in Woodstock.
Yes.
And if truth be told, I am working harder than and more active, maybe not with quite the success of Rabbit and Sagana and Laxton and all that, but hopefully that will come if it's meant to be. And I'm loving every minute of it. I'm making records, I'm writing songs, I'm dealing with fabulous, exciting artists. I'm exploring new genres. I've gone quite heavily into classical.
Okay.
And Paul has a grounding in jazz.
Right.
And so yeah, it's very fulfilling. And when I think of all the partners that are no longer here, that is very sad.
Sure.
And why I'm here, I don't know. I drank too much. I partied too hard. Go on.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying this was your journey, and you were meant to do exactly what you did. And you might have regrets or, I should have and I could have done that better. And all of us have that, Patrick. But those things we shoulda, coulda, didn't do were just shoulda, coulda, didn't do's. That was it. They were done. You know? It's
like the chairman of the board said, regrets, I've had a few.
Well, of course we have. When you look at your life now, when you're sitting there, and I mean, you and Charles, bless your hearts, you've been there since the beginning. You two, you're so blessed to have had a partner that has always been on your side, and vice versa, that you've both supported each other in everything that you've both done, you know, seen each other through the lows and the highs. Wow, sitting there right now, like if I had to say to you, what matters to you right now in your life?
Today.
Yes, what matters?
Today matters to me.
Today matters.
That's all that's all I've got right now.
That's it.
I've got today. Right this very moment, I'm chatting to you, my dear Piscean twin.
Pisces
I don't have
twin.
yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't have tomorrow.
No way.
None of us have any guarantee of having tomorrow.
No.
So my challenge today is to be the very best me I can be today, and make today the very best I can, not just for myself, but for the people around me.
And that's the best you can do, Patrick.
Yeah.
That's it. And keep doing what you're doing, because, as you say, you're busy. I mean, also, like, late in my life, I'm also so busy doing new albums, doing new stuff. It's like, this is our legacy, you know, that we live it.
And I suppose you also get asked a million times, when are you doing another Substitute or Save Me? Which incidentally was my favorite song. I love Substitute, but
Really?
I love it. Yeah.
It was a
I
damn
thought it'd be
good
a
song.
much bigger hit.
Well, I mean, it sold a couple million, so it was
I
okay.
know. And
it's still...
Where do you park your yacht?
My yacht, no. He parks his yacht in the Seychelles. The one we bought him. He parks it at the Seychelles. We've had a few people with frogmen, scuba divers with limpet mines trying to find it, but hasn't been successful up to now.
Well, it must have, I mean, it was such a great record, and the band,
of course,
in a very different way to Rabbit. I mean,
yes.
Suddenly those girls cut, and then that monster song, and there were the others.
Yes,
and then the terribly sad disintegration.
Yes, terribly sad. And it was very sad.
History, and I'm glad you've survived it. And I'm glad
my goodness.
you're still working and writing and producing. And I want to hear your album. Let's do something.
I'm sending it to you. I'm sending you my album. It's just a compilation album, but I'd love to always do something with you, to write a song with you or something. Patrick, you've always been, as I said in my my sort of intro, where I said, just you were always there. You were always larger than life. And a laid-back gentleman with the incredible gifts of finding those pearls and those diamonds. And you still have that. It's still in you. It's still part of you. It will never go away. And I think that the audience tonight have had their money's worth. That's for damn sure. I think we so respect those who place the flagpole so we can follow confidently. And that's from the partner of Robin Auld at Shoreline, and Henny Hugo. Thank you, everybody, and the people that have come to watch. Thank you so much for putting attention on these shows, because they're very important to us, and they're important for me to speak to people like Patrick. It's just, I mean, you take me on a journey. You know, I know so much of the stuff, but I don't know the intricate details. And thank you so much for sharing your life and so many beautiful stories with us. I think we're going to have to do a part 2.
Well, we can do, can't we do a year-long season?
Yeah, I would love a season, darling.
Wait till you get to my barroom stories.
You see, now that's why I have to have you again. So should we have you back next week? Seriously.
Well, I think give somebody else a turn. Sydney, what I'd like to do, apart from thanking you so much, and also Julian for putting it all together, there are 2 people I would just like to do
of course.
What do they call it? A shout out to.
Shout out.
This is not the Academy Awards where I'm thanking
No, you're most welcome. Most welcome.
In fact, it's 3. One is Robin Taylor, who without his belief and support, I could never have done Rabbit. The other is my old school friend, Robert Schroeder. We went to the same school as Elon Musk, by the way.
Yes, I believe so, darling. Pretoria boys.
That's right. And Robert and I have had such incredible adventures together. And then, I don't know if she's listening, but I told her to tune in, my sister in London, who was a wonderful force in the music industry. And I was sad we lost her to London, but she became Manfred's manager. She did a lot of fantastic things, and she was always supportive of me. And I get so many accolades for signing the Radio Rats.
Yes. Brilliant
Randy
band.
McCry. But Cheryl gave me the Radio Rats. So thanks to the three of them. And thank you for giving me the privilege and the pleasure of chatting with you.
What an absolute pleasure. Thank you for saying yes. I absolutely adore you, Patrick. Always have and always will. Thank you again, everybody. Good night to everybody. Thank you to our wonderful Discover TV platform that let us do these crazy things, and we can do whatever the hell we like, and we love it. Thank you. Good night, everybody. I think we should play out with some photos and some little collage of what we've got there. I think people would like that.
Okay, that'll be lovely. Thank you very much.
Oh, this is even better. Look at this. This is better. This is great.
When the stars no longer shine, when the sun falls from the sky, I will be forever yours, you will be forever mine. There's a special star that shines every evening in your eyes. There's a special star that shines each time I hear that lullaby. There's a special star that shines every evening in your eyes. You're special, you're special. You're special. You're special, you're special. Ooh, you're special. You're special. Shines each time I hear that lullaby. There's a special star that shines every evening in your eyes. In your eyes. You're special. You're special. You're special. You're special. You're special star. You're special star that shines. You're special star.